And we are live. That's great. So I'll just go. Hello, everyone, for the Factors.ai webinar this month. And we are pretty lucky. We started off the month with a great webinar. This is something which was in planning for almost 2 months now. And we are joined by Dhiraj Kumar from Rocketlane. Just a brief background. I'm a fan of Rocketlane, and I have known the founders of Rocketlane for a very long time. But most importantly, in this decade, it's one of the companies which has grown really, really well from the India SaaS AI cohort. There were so many companies which got funded in early 2020, 2021, etc. And Rocketlane is one of the very few standout performers in that. In a sense, we expect Rocketlane to be as big as Freshworks uh, over the course of the next 5 years or 10 years. And that's the level of expectation and also the scale and the speed at which execution has happened at Rocketlane, which everyone is watching for. Naturally, the question comes to is like, yeah, you guys have a great product, you are working on a certain market, you have AI agents, the investor story, the large, big numbers, everyone sees that. But how does it actually work in the execution and the operational front is something which a lot of people don't have a clear visibility on. And one of the core parts of the operation is how does RevOps stack work? Because the revenue ops is core to any revenue pipeline generation engine for any company. Revenue growth is what defines whether a startup is successful or not. And hence, we have Dhiraj here who heads RevOps at Rocketlane to come and share his playbook, especially how Rocketlane went from a kind of a Series A stage to all the way up to the current Series C stage, how they have grown so well in terms of like almost like more than 10, 15x growth, ACV is increasing, the team's growing very well and also raising almost more than $100 million in funding. Through all this kind of dynamic changes in a very disruptive market, how they have grown very well is something which we are here to share with. So welcome here again, Dhiraj. It's a privilege for us to have you here, Dasing, and it will be great if you can just introduce yourself for the audience and we can go further from there.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for the warm intro there. Um, I joined Rocketlane about 3.5 years back, and then been with Rocketlane for the entire ride. And this is nothing short of one of the biggest stories I would have in my career. Um, I've seen Rocketlane from Series A, then to Series B, and now C, and we'll do more to it.
Yeah,
Um, and the overall story that we will want to cover here would be how we thought through all of these decision making before the decisions were made. And I'll promise to keep the overall conversation as jargonless as possible. And we
yeah.
cover more on what went into it rather than what tool did we deploy. Right? Over to you, Sri.
That's great. And for the audience, just for this thing, this is not about strategy. This is not about large vision. This is core operational execution. So we are going to get into the depths. We are going to get into like how RevOps changed at each and every point. What were the calls they made in advance which helped? What are the calls they made in advance which may not have helped as much? How they see the future, and also going into the kind of like each and every nuts and bolts about like right from tooling, right from kind of internal people operations to each and every aspect and exec buy-in as well to actually scale RevOps when your company is scaling. So that's what we'll be going into. So without wasting any more time, and because I can keep talking about Rocketlane forever, so we will actually get into the slides and the further the thing. Rich, I'll be moving to the next slide. So you can go further from here in terms of what it is, and I'll ask questions as we speak.
Amazing. Very high level. We wanted to start off with this slide more to get an understanding on how we think about any problem that's thrown at RevOps, right? Um, so in general, we look at RevOps on a three-layer framework, and this is what we spun up once I joined Rocketlane. Is first is getting the systems and data right. So I've tied back to my year one, like when I joined, and we had, I think, 3 or 4 A's. three or four CSMs, and there were a couple IMs. Overall, a GTM team of probably 10 people, and all founder led, and Shri himself doing a lot of operations on it. Um, we had just set up HubSpot, if I remember when I walked in. We had an agency do that, and then I walked in. Um, that's the first stage when we walked in. So the first part of any RevOps person is you walk in and you're asked already like, hey, can I get like 10 reports, A, B, C. I want to see this metric. I want to be aggressive, proactively surface this, and they're like almost 10 questions that's thrown at you, right? Um, the first thing that we did is we said, hey, let's take a step back. Let's make
Mhm.
sure we get the basic systems and data right? And we can build as many reports as we can, but let's understand if we have our tech right in the place, right? So we took a step back, although there was already HubSpot that was implemented by an external agency. We sat and thought through, are we comparing the right, let's take an example of the sales framework, right? The stages that they would have set was based on a generic playbook. The first thing was to match
MQL,
if
SQL, this thing, that
correct.
way.
Yeah, the first task was to match if that stage is actually needed for the sales process that we are running into. So
Mm.
that allows you into questioning two items. One, are you overcomplicating or over-engineering something? Second, are you missing out on some basics that should have been captured at multiple stages, right? Um, so we answered those questions first before we dived into metrics. So the first year was making sure we had the right CRM, we had all the lead captures in place, we had a CS tooling at that point. Of course, we were using Rocketlane for implementation. So we had the basic tech stack in place, and we also made sure we'll not boil the ocean on let's clean up the CRM. Let's understand what all items do we want in CRM, and those are in the right hygiene, right? So we answered for 90% of what we want, and then we moved past it. Uh, the second layer was metrics and alignment. So, little down into probably 6 months, we are all running around on what are the key metrics that need to be tracked. Of course, start with the North Star ARR, and then there are multiple other metrics. We started questioning, okay, probably if MQL is one stage that every company is doing, does MQL matter to us? Is MQL to SQL conversion like a huge problem that we need to solve for, or is it going to be just SQL and further on, right? So every question is okay, we know what is the generic playbook, but is
Mhm.
it needed for us? If it is not needed for us, we took stronger calls saying, hey, that does not make sense for what we are building towards, or that's not how we want to run our sales process. So we kept cutting down the noise as and when we grow. And this is like every problem that I think every RevOps person would relate to, is multiple stakeholders coming and asking you for new metrics. And every time a stakeholder changes or every time there is an org change, you're given with a new set of metrics, right? Uh, so this is like an ongoing thing that we keep changing and chasing. The
Mhm.
major thing that we have been always focusing on is alignment, right? So we always prioritize alignment over metrics. So there will always be few metrics which are lagging indicators, and few people will obsess with it. But it's always important to ask saying, hey, is this going to tie back to revenue? So one of the examples I'll give you is, think of revenue per square feet as a metric in any of these brands.
Hotels and brands, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Retail generally is
in
revenue per
retail.
square feet.
Correct. Revenue per square feet in retail. Let's say someone is obsessing over it and say, I will only work on optimizing for that and I'm going to shrink my shop. That's not going to add to your overall metric, which is revenue,
Mhm.
right? Zudio is supposed to be bigger and show us that there are more options to it. So you chase the core metric, but you do not worry about smaller metrics that keep you away from the core metric, right? So very similar, we looked at, let's say one of the examples that time would have been no show to show rate, right? And it's very obvious saying, hey, even if we increase that by 5% or 10%, there is you will immediately have like a funnel model and say, yeah, I can increase the revenue by X%. Now the question is, are you going to obsess over it, or are you going to disregard it, right? Like we took the call of, we'll do what is in the middle. We'll not disregard it. We are going to track it. We are going to attack it at the levels that we can, but we are not going to obsess over it that that becomes our primary metric in any of the conversations. So I think one of the biggest thing I feel I'm very blessed at Rocketlane is I am able to have these conversations with leadership pretty early on. And
Mhm.
all the leaders are also obsessed with numbers, but they all understand, okay, what are like the items that need to be prioritized. And I learned this always from Vignesh. This,
Mhm.
like, he keeps telling the most important attribute in a product manager is deprioritizing things that are not important, right? And in RevOps, in my previous roles, I hear from others, it's easy to get lost into, yeah, there are three more metrics, I'm gonna figure out these metrics also. But these are like very conscious calls that we made that makes the next layer pretty important and interesting, right?
No, and
Um,
actually, you made very, very good points. And as I was actually speaking with Praveen, my other co-founder today, he was like, "Shri, you just worry about growth and revenue numbers. Don't worry about the costs or don't worry about this thing because whatever time you spend on that, that alone is a thing. Rest others will figure out and other parts. And it's like the whole founding level, founding team level prioritization where you do. And you have actually even applied it from a RevOps perspective. And it's also even more important because at a Series A stage, lot of companies get a couple of things wrong. One, they adopt generic frameworks, which is for very large companies like stage one, stage two, stage three, so many other metrics. You guys are more focused on like at my stage, the same demos, qualify, convert,
yeah.
or make it very simple so that it actually gets the largest output which is there. Second thing which you also made sure is like prioritize on the only metrics which matter to you at that stage. For example, it's like, yes, if I'm a large hotel or a retail chain or something, revenue per square feet, everything starts coming in because it's all the consulting metrics. At my stage at which I am at, I need to increase revenue. I also need to worry about no show, so many other metrics, etc. But any percentage changes will only increase only a certain amount. Let's focus on the highest one, whichever is going to increase revenue, because that's what is going to define us going to the next stage. Because most Series A companies, in a sense, it's like they're getting a Series A because they have product market fit.
Yeah.
Investors are pushing in money so that they can kind of like put gas on the pedal for the highest maximum growth. So the next level is like how fast they're able to get to a $10 million revenue number or other much more interesting or show the growth in terms of on a consistent accelerated growth on a consistent quarterly or a monthly basis, which is there. Hence, this deprioritization metrics makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, the team and the whole company itself ends up running after a certain set of metrics, which might be more adding to the stress rather than and decelerating the growth rather than accelerating. And it's also good that you pointed out like how Vignesh and the founding team, others have also been important. So for the audience, and if you're either a founder or if you're in a Series A RevOps, the same, it's like narrow down the metrics, keep it very simple for what actually matters for your sales process, and most importantly, get the founder or the executive buy-in, which is makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
I will
on
just yeah. Sorry.
Sorry,
Uh,
I'll move on to the programs part. Yeah. So
mm,
on we'll go back one slide back. Just wanted to cover
sorry.
the programs.
Yeah. Sorry.
So the last layer that we wanted to cover was programs,
Mm,
which we started off pretty early on as well, but
mm,
we first waited for layer one and layer two to be built out very good. Till that time, most of the programs are either the leader led or founder led. And RevOps comes into programs on very specific items and asks only after we have the base job done. So we did not jump into hey, let me drive revenue right from day one, right? Like we're waiting for sales to happen. Most of that is founder led when you're pretty young. After a while, it's like sales leaders coming and driving, and then it becomes a playbook. So we waited for all of that to happen and focused on our basics. Now, I think on year two, year three, we're running a lot of programs ourselves, which is all adding up to revenue. So one major takeaway I would give out of this slide is all of what we do and everything that we do, we question saying, is this touching revenue or not? And if it is not touching revenue, we deprioritize it. That is just like a Friday work for us. We will pick it up on Friday second half when we have nothing else to do. But if it is not directly touching revenue, we will always have that as the back end. That won't be something that's on the front. So that's the major takeaway I wanted to give away out of this
No,
slide.
it's very, very important. And specifically, since we have been using Rocketlane from our customer onboarding, and we have also kind of Rocketlane also uses factors.ai as a customer. We have seen like how kind of directly prioritized around your kind of like revenue generating activities, and more importantly, what are the core features which matter for that rather than others. So I have seen that firsthand. So it also makes a lot of sense and important for more founders to function around it. Now, going into the next one. So here, what we are discussing, and for the sake of the audience, for them to understand this better, is as well, it's like the company goes through multiple stages here. For the first 15 minutes, it's the one is the introduction, but more importantly, what are the key bets they took at different stages so that they get ahead. And this is something is where most companies fail. They either underinvest or they overinvest, or they end up kind of misprioritizing, which ends up slowing them. On the other hand, if you take the right bets and if you're also a little ahead of in terms of how they're saying, it really accelerates your overall growth. That impacts your funding, that impacts your general perception in the market, that impacts your eventual chance of whether you're going to be a unicorn, IPO, or you're going to be a kind of, let's say, like also ran Series B, Series C company, which was there. So please take us through your bet one, Dheeraj. Just,
Yeah. Uh, so interesting story. So my year one was so I explained to you we had a CS tool, we had Rocketlane, then we had HubSpot, and then we had a few lead capturing tool. And the most important item on every RevOps person's plate is let me understand the funnel, right? And to understand the funnel, now you're taking download from at least 5 to 6 tools of taking an export every day, understanding each of them, and then putting like a primary key between two, and then presenting a funnel, right? And then you're doing this like on a weekly basis, monthly basis, everyday basis, and then one metric changes. Someone wants to add a slicing and dicing, and then you have to reorganize the entire funnel. So this is like uh, a tedious task. We and the next item on plate was, hey, once you add regional leaders, you will need multiple people doing this. Everyone's going to take a download of this. Every meeting you enter, you're doing it manually, right? So me, VG, and Deepak get in a room and say, hey, there are two options to it. One, we add headcount as and when we are scaling, and both of them go like, no, we will not go down that path. We've seen this in previous orgs, we've seen this in other companies. There is no way we are going to add 5 analysts when you want to become, or when you're serving like a team of 50 GTM
no
folks.
building a tribe or an army.
Yeah. Um, it is what usually most of the companies will do. They'll have like a regional analyst for every regional leader. So you're looking at APAC, mid-market on one product, that team will have one analyst on their own who are doing their own number crunching, right? So Vignesh said we're not doing that. The second thing was I said, hey, I've seen this in a few previous companies but they are like much ahead of their stage, and they get Snowflake, and they get all their data pushed into Snowflake, and someone has to normalize it, and then we create Tableau dashboards. Um, and this is usually like Series E, F companies who are trying to do that. And I said, are we going to do that right away? And when I said that, honestly, I did not feel like that's gonna fly. I would be kicked out of the room. I would be laughed off. But within minutes, Vignesh is like, "Yeah, that is exactly what we are gonna do." And I thought probably he's joking. Next day he comes back, he's saying, "Hey, I was very sure when I told this." Deepak said, "Yes, we're gonna invest it." And the funnier part was I was scared now because I made that commitment. I was like, hey, I'm not properly equipped to do all the data engineering by myself. Like I've done Tableau dashboards and stuff, but I've not handled data ingesting that into the systems, doing normalization. I've not done that. And I know Snowflake or Databricks charges on active rows. What if I suddenly transform something and then that is blowing up our costs? How are we gonna handle all of that, right? And all of these, now I look back, were like so easy conversations, but the whole part was me in my head being very clear of, do I actually want it? So the hard part was to take that bet there. The easier part was having that conversation, because everyone in that room is invested on how we solve it for scale. We're not solving this as a point solution. We are here to stay. So most of my peers were like, "Hey, I think you are making a very aggressive bet. For a Series A company, it needs to survive Series B. So focus on getting your revenue from whatever X to Y, right? Where you are raising the next round. Are you even gonna stay through or gonna get through that round? Why are you investing in such a huge so, and Snowflake and Tableau is not like a small investment that you make.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is talking about 3 years back, right? And Vignesh and Deepak were very, very clear that we are going to go down this route. Deepak even said like, "Hey, I'm gonna allocate engineering resource. They are gonna help you get through the evaluation and do you initial setup, and then we will spin up something, and let's hire like a data engineer, right?" The second bet was like on the same lines was. Uh, the generic way is to, okay, I've come and set up like the basic systems, let's hire an analyst who will do the repeated task, right? And then you move to programs. We said no, we're going to hire a data engineer who is going to do like the end-to-end implementation of it, who is going to set up this will scale, this will multiply, and then we're going to make it so easy for anyone to spin up a dashboard. So the overall objective has always been, how can we create self-serve models that people don't keep coming back to RevOps and say, hey, can you spin up one more dashboard? Hey, can you add something onto it, right? So that was like a huge investment, I think, that we made ahead of time. Um, and very happy that it has paid off.
No,
Uh,
it's
Most of my leaders live on, like, wake up and live on like these key dashboards that we've built. The conversation now is not, can I have one more metric? It's, hey, I have all of this. Like, what do I do? I see there are, these are like these are my problems. These are where the gaps lie. Now we're talking about programs, right?
no, no, this is amazing. Actually, you made a pretty easy to thing. It's like one is taking the bet. Second is like how easy it was to have a conversation. So it also makes sense from both exec leadership level or a founders level or even investors to make it easy for to push founders or companies or teams as well, saying that okay, we are willing to make the bet. We are here to stay. It's not about like we have to survive to the next stage, but more importantly, be a kind of a very metrics run company at the base level, and we'll invest for it. So that's one thing which is, I mean, it's easy to say it, but it's more importantly for it to be getting ingrained and also for people to learn it from others to actually take it. The second aspect, actually, you made a very interesting part. In a sense, you also called out very clearly is like, yes, I'm a RevOps person, but there are certain things which I can't do. For example, handling Databricks or Snowflake or multi-data transformations, and I know it can be costly. I need a person who will be a proper engineer to help you with it. So in a sense, it's like what happens is sometimes people get a little closed in where they say that okay, all this is totally under my control and other parts. So it'll be very hard for them to bring in engineers, bring in other partners and other users to actually into the whole system. Rather, they'll try to build more like a hierarchical tribe under them. Here, you went more sideways and you were able to open yourself where like you're vulnerable here, but here you are strong and you're able to bridge both of that together. That's also shows a lot of kind of confidence in yourself and also the systems which you are able to put through. So that's very good.
Mhm.
That's that. I'll just go to the next
Next slide.
slide. Yeah, the bet too is more interesting.
The bet two was the overall theme um, in RevOps for sure, in every team, and this. probably zooming out on revenue per employee might be like a thing in recent times, but Shri has always been on that even before it's either come down across or it's like the lay of land. The coin was never on, hey, what is this person going to add? The coin was always on, okay, if this is a point solution someone's going to solve, what next? What is the career pathing that we are looking at someone? What is like the next big problem this person would solve? And we have always thought through on one problem at a time. At that point, you want to immediately put someone on the problem and say, let's hire someone and move on. That's the pattern I've seen so far. This question itself made me uncomfortable. And every time I would walk out of this conversation with Shri or Vignesh, I would get frustrated saying, hey, there is so much work on me. I need someone to be hired, right? But uh, I think a small couple of interviews, and then it makes it so clear of why Shri or why VG is pushing me on this line. So one of the most important bet here, and MRE is one of the examples. Um, at that time, like MRE was like a mandatory hire that everyone in GTM made um, for a person to come in and collate a lot of enrichment tools, and this person is sitting doing a manual task of looking at multiple tools like Zoom Info, Apollo, Lucia, and then getting like the right phone number, and that's the output that we needed. So the positioning that happened, or so the questioning back was, okay, you talk about what is your outcome. Don't think about is it a headcount problem. Think about what is your input, what is the black box of process, and what is the outcome. Now let's think, if we remove the headcount, how are you pushing yourself into solving this using tools? Right. So we were like an early investor in Clay. Was of course Clay was a little later, but even before that, we were okay in adding more seats on all the tools. We were okay to be on the highest tier plan where we are using their API and pulling stuff. So we spent more on tools, but we were very, very, very strict that we will not add a headcount under the name of, hey, this can be done easily. This is like a manual task, someone is going to sit and do it. So automation was on the gun point, saying, no, we will not do anything that a tool can do manually. So that was like the key motto that we operated with. Very happy that we did not make any point solution hires. Every hire that we made was a problem solver, a builder, right? None of these are like coming in with just uh, one skill set. I would today think back into when I was in Salesforce or in my previous roles. Salesforce admin or CRM admin used to be a role, and today none of those roles would exist, right? Like it's just one RevOps person who is solving revenue problems. Probably managing CRM is one of the trade they are looking at. But these were like high stake bets, and it was like heavy pressure you are fighting with sales saying, hey, I need list ready. I don't want to be spending time into enriching it myself. But tools made it so easy. And today we are in the era of, well, let's say Ample Market or any of an outbound tool which does all of this by itself. And we know, had we made that hire either had to be uplifted by ourselves, or then if they have only that as the skill set, we won't be in the market.
No, actually, it's a very important point because a lot of founders across the board tend to, and founders, and I'm also saying CROs and other things, tend to be more oriented towards having a person to call in to get the work done, in a sense. So that generally takes the same. Second aspect is also is like investing tooling, especially in the highest tiers in terms of API, in terms of pulling data, and then pushing that into other webhook or another set of operations or workflow tooling, etc. Also doesn't happen naturally because sometimes it's like for spending $50,000 a month in terms of ads gets approved, or even having a 20 lakh hire gets approved. But having a $10,000 tooling for the whole year, it's or more like even if you have a monthly plan, it'll be like $500 per month or $800 per month, doesn't get approved. That's where people fail, and they are not efficient. But one more important point which you even made, and I can see that from a Sri's position also, is like you are not looking at it as like it's not about a question of like hire or not hire. It's a question of like if I hire that person, what would be his next role? And that shows a lot more responsibility towards going after these hires. In a sense, it's like whatever I do, I need to make sure that the guy can have a 8 or 10 year career here, rather than it being like, okay, at that point in time, I'm just kind of like hiring a consultant or offshore resource or something like that. I'm just going to grab it and then move it on, etc. That doesn't happen. Rather, we'll set up systems and process and evolve with the systems and process. All the tools which you're speaking, whether it's like a Snowflake or a Tableau or even some of the so many other tools which we use. I mean, we have seen from we provide intent data from Factors.ai. There is Clay. There is data enrichment tools, waterfalls. There are even other tools like social listening and so many other tools. They also evolve with time, and now with Claude and others like how MCP agents, all of that evolves. But if you bring in the foundation of culture of like, I'm going to be tooling first rather than people first, the whole system also adopts into the latest in terms of how the technology evolves and how the automation and structurally things are evolving. You're able to build something with a strong foundation. So culturally, you are more aligned towards adopting the best in class tools and building on top of that. That makes a lot of sense as well.
And these are not just in places of like we don't blindly go in on saying, hey, we'll do tools over headcount, right? We are capturing the outcomes for sure. So 6 months into this or 3 months into this, we are saying, hey, I know probably now the sales folks had to spend a little more time, or there might be one more friction point where they had to log into something and click enrich, and they have the number there. That is one layer of friction. Now we are talking about how can we even remove that one friction point, right? But there was one small uh, bump that you need to pass, and a mental barrier heavily saying, hey, this could have been served to me on a spreadsheet and I would have saved 10 of those clicks. Now we are fighting that. Yes, every cycle, every small release that you do internally, you trying to reduce the number of clicks. But none of this is just taking in saying, hey, I've replaced X number of headcount using tool without the outcome being managed. So you will see a lot of places where they'll claim, hey, I'll replace a SDR because my AI is calling into it. Now
Yeah.
I've replaced like 10 people. No. Are you getting the same outcome to it? Now, if you had like a revenue goal and you are hitting that revenue goal with less number of people, that is the thing that we optimize for. None of this will compromise saying, hey, I am now doing less revenue, but I'm also saving on
Having
people,
lesser
right?
people.
Yeah, the whole, like at every slide, at every go, revenue has been like our primary north star. And if anything is touching back on revenue, then we will take back our bet is where we draw the line.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Also, it's not something like you are reducing hiring for the sake of reducing hiring, or it's not something like everything is going to be a 1% company or a 10% company. It's more very clearly like we need to get these outputs. How do you get human plus tooling together to get the maximum output? And I think in an agentic world, that makes even more sense. Like, how do we have co-workers or co-agents to work with our existing humans to get the maximum output? If you need
Correct.
more person or more agents, you'll add accordingly and then build on top of it. And including the tooling will work around that. And that's one thing. One more thing which you also mentioned, which is interesting. I've seen a lot of teams where like if they are not tooling first, they end up being also like not closer to the data and the closer to what is first. In a sense, a lot of companies are still relying on age-old data waterfall practices, whether it's on account identification or contact data and other parts. Now with APIs with multiple tools, you can actually integrate somewhere where like you can have a very strong waterfall so that you get the right number. You can work on those aspects. Similarly, the same part of it, like how you actually inject the data and see like which times have better connect rates, better call rates, or how things conversion rates, which is there. This analysis, based on that, you can actually go to a very clear kind of a different kind of schedule, or even tune it by difference between a GMT versus a EST versus PST. You can tune it by that for your call blocks, etc. All of this can happen very well if the leaders themselves are working with the tools and enabled to work with the tools. If they are one or two levels behind the tools and they use analysts and others to do it, they themselves don't understand and see the patterns. It's more like they are tuned on the basics of the whole fundamentals of the whole kind of operations, but since they're not close to the tooling and the data, etc., they might miss some of these kind of waves, etc., and they would actually lose a lot more. You are making that actually a lot more efficient and get have ground level feedback, and that's also another thing which works very well here. That's good. I'll just move on to the next slide, which is Bet3 agents versus vibe coded tools.
So this is, I think, the recent last year, right? And most of us would have gone through this journey. So when the entire AI wave hit, LinkedIn was full of, hey, I vibe coded a CRM over the weekend. And every tool is now going through the entire build versus buy that they are fighting. So the natural peer pressure, natural LinkedIn pressure is there for you to spin up tools and try to stay relevant on what LinkedIn is talking about, right? The major bet that we made on is we took a step back, right? Again, going back to the same question. If I vibe code this tool, is this adding to my revenue? And the answer is no, right? You vibe code one tool, you're saving money,
Mhm.
but is saving money your metric today? And with the entire AI tools that you are doing, nobody had figured out the tokens, nobody had figured out what is it going to cost if I'm going to ask AI on one open-ended question using Fable, what is it gonna charge me? None of us know. All of us, and CFO is scared of any consumption-based modeling. So is there any proof as well on that if I use this vibe coded tool, it's gonna save me a lot of money as well? So we took that as the major question. Is it going to add to my revenue? If the answer is
Mhm.
no, we said we will not do that, right? Of course, it's very important for all of you to get your hands on to understand what is the magic of AI. But it's also very important to remove those hands off and not sign up saying, yeah, I'm going to change my entire internal GTM tech stack to the tool that I created, and then I become a product support specialist on fixing every problem that's gonna come up on the last minute, right? So I would never vibe code a CRM unless and until the CRM is like the whatever CRMs are available. That's heavily away from what I need out of it. Like no product or no tool in the market is solving. So one of the things that we also see through in buying a tool is also that, right? Between a build versus buy, yeah, of course, with building on any of the AI is very juicy. And once you get your hands onto it, you'll feel this instant satisfaction of, oh, I created something. Now, the question is, do you want to go down that path? The second path here was all the agents that we were seeing, right? And pretty early on, we understood agents are here to stay. Um,
Mhm.
we were using Notion for all our documentation, and when Notion released its agents, there was like
Mhm.
absolutely no, it was like a no-brainer that we had to, like use Notion agents to the fullest. So we created a lot of Notion agents, and the idea was always that nobody has to log into one more UI and they get everything right out of Slack. And
Mhm.
we figured out that's the most lowest friction place that you can be. To
Mhm.
every leader who has already adopted Tableau,
Mhm.
was already seeing that, hey, I'm getting all my answers in dashboard. But every other person who is not adopted to Tableau, there is one layer of friction which is logging into Tableau and then Tableau asking for it or for a two-factor authentication, right? We saw that as a friction and we said we'll immediately cut that out. So all our agents are based out of Slack. You can invoke something from Slack and then have conversation on it. And the most important aspect to all of this is deep documentation, meaning does the agent understand the Slack lingo of your revenue terms? Simple example, a mid-market company in sales is purely from what is the sales cycle that they are going to run versus a mid-market company, mid-market account in post-sales is purely on the ARR that they are backed in, right? So now the agent needs to understand who is asking me this question. What is the context that they are in? And we've just fed all of this into our agent saying, yeah, if these people are from post sales, they are going to ask mid market, and this is the definition of mid market. If these people are from sales, their definition is going to be this. So we started with solving for point solutions, which is let's understand what is the most simple thing that we can take away from you. Is someone going and asking, saying, hey, who is the account owner for this? Who is the CRM owner for this? Who is the CSM for this, right? Let's start with that. And that's where we got most of the adoption, saying, yes, every time someone is pinging someone on Slack, we would also ping our agent on Slack, and the agent would fetch the result even before someone is answering. So now that build trust for people, and then of course once you see meat, you want more of it, and you're like, yeah, can your agent also tell me A, B, and C? Now within that we are trying to solve. Okay, now that you have the CSM name, what's the next question that you want to ask them? Saying how was the implementation? When was it handed over? Yeah, let's ask all of those questions onto it. Now it's just ingesting more data from different sources into your agent, but making sure you give agent all the context that is needed. So that's like a
So
huge
in a
bit that
sense, like how did you instrument it in a sense? It's like the HubSpot data goes into Notion with all the deal level details, CSM level details. And whenever someone asks a question or you have a Rocketlane owner or a deal level agent or something, or a deal analysis agent or a deal update agent, etc., when you tag it, it will actually, with the question, it will go through the whole Notion data sources and then come back with the data. How does from
correct.
the
That and on top of that, we'll have a documentation layer. So we've documented a lot of things on what all the Notion agent needs to look for before it is looking at the direct data, right? So you instruct a Notion, so you instruct an agent saying, yeah, if you invoke this particular agent, which is very much on just HubSpot data, so it is having all the data regarding sales. Now let's answer only that question. Now let's also understand the lingo that the salesperson is going to ask and what all things they can ask on second layer. Now that particular agent will look through your Notion documentation, understand the lingo, and then go back to its Notion database to get everything out of just let's say the CRM in this case, pick and then come back. And then we've also made it in a way where you can ask follow-up questions on the same chat, on the same thread. The beauty of what this has come out is now you start a thread on a public channel saying who is the CSM for it, and then everyone starts jumping on it, whoever is relevant. So you don't need to now take data into a particular meeting and say, hey, let's look at this data and have this conversation. You're already having that conversation on the thread. So let's say
complete?
a leader can just look at it and say what all deals are, probably in SQL stage and not moved. And then this would give like a list. And then they would just tag the people who are in it and say, what's the update to it? And they would give some update. And let's say they're not satisfied, they can again invoke the agent and say, yeah, but I updated this. Why is it not showing here? And the agent would answer for more items. So we've done two types of agents. One is the ones that are invoked, and the seconds are the ones that we schedule. Like we give some pre-scheduled
Routines.
updates, which say every Monday you will have like a CRM hygiene doctor, which will come and say these are like this is like a scorecard. Within the scorecard, it will show with every AE what all warnings issues are lying along with the links. and then a
Hmm.
manager can go on and say, yeah, tell me all the issues that are my team, and then it would again give you the links. That link would directly open your HubSpot, right?
Got it. No, this is pretty, very deep as well in terms of like how you're looking at the whole instrumentation for reducing meetings at a very simple level. Lot of questions can just be a conversation over a chat or can be something where people can check it out for some themselves that end up being meetings. You, by instrumenting both the documentation layer, the Notion plus Slack plus other layers into the being, and also building agents with all that context into the place and having people in their conversation interface, which is Slack here, to actually have that conversation and get that output. You made it as easy as possible so that people can answer questions at any point in time. Otherwise, you need people, someone to be on the time zone to be available, or like schedule a meeting. That will be another half an hour of time, and we don't know what this thing. So that way, you have reduced unnecessary meetings, but also made the thing. One thing which we also work on Factors.ai from our agents' perspective is like we have agents which can be built generically from our platform, where like you have all the tooling from HubSpot to the buyer journey, third party intent, contact level data, the account scoring, all of that tooling is there. From that you can build your own custom agents which are there. These agents you can call into routines or workflows at any point in time. The workflow can be is like either push it into a email, drafting an email, or can be into pushing it back into HubSpot, or can be scoring, can be adding into an audience, or it can be a routine like a pipeline snapshot or other parts. This is something which we have built that as like a product feature itself. But it's very interesting to know, like much earlier, you guys have actually kind of structured it in terms of like how do like Deepak's stance, it's like let's understand the value of the tooling and how much it's important, what time it saves or what cost it saves, then figure out how you want to use the tokens and costing and build it in advance. And that also, I think, would have also gone back into a lot of product features back into your own professional services automation tooling as well. So that's very interesting in how you have actually looked at it. That's great.
Yeah,
That's it.
interesting part is I would have had like 3 years back when I got Notion, um,
Mhm.
just I got like 4 seats, $10 a seat, and I had to build like a business case, convince Vignesh of why we should buy Notion, and then there is why can't you do it in Google Docs? What's so different about it and stuff. And then recently, when we launched agents, um, I think this conversation with Deepak where he asked, "Do you know what we are spending?" I said, "I don't know. Should I worry? Should I ask the CSM to reduce or cap something?" And then none of these are actually a problem statement, right? Like most more stuff is Deepak would probably push us to understand. Okay, no, you first need to figure out what is like the entire Notion or any AI item capable of. Let's understand like the full potential to it before you worry about tokens. Of course, at some point all of this would come, but the first point is not jump with. If you're looking at tooling, are you going to look at them on just pricing as one of the item,
Or
or
tokens or pricing.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
or
actually, you
or
made that point very clear also. It's like you guys chose tooling instead of over just hiring, just for the sake of
yeah,
hiring.
yeah.
And it also made even more sense like when you chose agents over kind of tokens costs and other parts and then inbuilt it. Even more interesting is like how from your own how you started off, it's like a lot of users use Notion, they don't know how to exactly use Notion. There are Notion fan clubs, but it's like a lot of teams are wondering like how to use Notion or how to use different set of toolings, etc. This makes a lot more stronger case on in terms of like what all you can do with a very powerful platform than just a doc. I mean, you can always use it like a notepad or something else, but there are a lot more unique and very clear productivity focused things which you can do with a certain set of tooling, which you have kind of evangelized within the company and scaled that up as well. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That is there.
I think a
And
lot
going
of
to the
a lot of the credit would be
mm,
to the exec team and the
mm,
leaders here, right? For us to even think tool first, or for
mm,
us to even think Okay, pricing is secondary. First, I need to be on, am I using the right tool for the right thing? Are all of these tying to outcomes and revenue first, right? All of this is like a push top down. So when I talk to my peers, uh, it's like two different worlds. They come from, hey, I have to first prove the ROI and this and that, and I come from a world where, hey, there's more that we can do. Probably every time I get into a conversation with Shri is, he's always pushing us and asking, oh, but I heard in some other company they are using some more new tools. Why are you not aware of it, or why are you not using it? So all of these equally comes top down. So if whatever I and my team have done on RevOps at Rocketlane um, is on one side. The second side is always I've had like the best exec team on the other side who is either pushing me to do this, saying, hey, like if someone is talking about AI somewhere, you should have told that to us, or I should have already heard that we've used it in Rocket Lane and we know what this is about, right? So having such a great leadership also matters, and having that exec buy-in from early on shapes how the team structures.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, we are almost at the end of the webinar as well, it's like 50th minute. The three things which you have summarized beautifully: invest in RevOps early and hire right, pick tools by RFP, not by what you'd see. Can you elaborate a little more on both these points?
Yeah.
Mm,
So on the RevOps hire, right? Like
mm,
two items. One is I talked about the point solution hires, and usually people will go for someone who's already done it. Bring in people who know the playbook. I'm talking about the you just on the pre or just your post on PMF part to it, right? At those places, I think you need to get a builder mindset. You need to get a person who is very first principle thinking and questioning why. Just because someone did it, why should I do it? Does it add back to my sales process? Am I carrying this from what I learned in LinkedIn, or am I questioning on, is this my sales process, or is this my renewal process, and this is how I want to do it, right? So all of those are hiring for builders, hiring for first principle problem solvers, hiring for people who will bring alignment over metrics, people who will bring structure over chaos, right? So that's the first thing, and you need to know where you don't need to hire, right? If something can be done by an agency, which is like a man, like just they're there for a short time, we need this for a short project, you don't need to hire, don't hire. So get that right and invest in RevOps generally, right? The second thing is, this is like one of the learning I've learned through burning my fingers and mistakes. We always get into this conversation of you're either looking at a tool and then thinking, oh, does this fit into my framework? Is this something that I like? Uh, uh, it's very important to understand that you don't need to force fit something into your framework, right? But it's very important to understand what the tool solves for actually. What is the value that they are bringing? What is the value that you might miss out if you're not investing on the right tool? So it's very important to always look at tools. But when you're into a buying decision, you always pick tool based on your RFP. It's always good to look at three tools and then build your RFP saying, yeah, now I've looked at what are the tools in market. Let me understand and build things from what I need for my tooling. And most important things that I see these days, I ask for what are your last releases that you did? What is your product roadmap? Have you stuck to your
mm,
product roadmap? What is the thought leadership that they are bringing? Right? You're not buying only a tool. You're buying like a framework because this been used by multiple people, or if the founder knows the space very well, they will all come in with suggestions saying, hey, this is just like the tool I'm offering is one, but there is a lot more we are going to offer, which is what the leaders are doing in the space, which is what great teams or great companies in this space do, right? So those are like a lot additional things that I look for when I'm buying the tool. And the last is, of course, I started the webinar with that. Uh, it's very important that every work that we do drives or ties back to revenue. Everything else can be a Friday second half conversation.
Good. We have a couple of questions, so I just wanted to take that as well. So one of the questions which has actually come in is this. So it's like it's from Jolly Engineer. I like clean agents answering directly in Slack, and also love that you provide deep documentation, which I believe is the heart of cheating. How do you monitor those agents since AI may hallucinate sometimes?
So yeah, I think this is most places where we are also facing this. What we did is we started doing a lot more documentation. So when you instruct the AI into what all items you can think through, and what are the guardrails that you want to drive, right? What happens is now it also sometimes starts giving wrong data. But if we have put like the right guardrails of saying it will not look beyond the data set that you have provided, and then probably it can come back and say, yeah, I'm not allowed to answer this, or I don't have an answer to this. That's one thing that we are consistently developing and working on. Second is we haven't done one agent does all model, right? We first figured out point agents, point solution. The second layer is agent calling an agent, right? When you do agent calling an agent, you don't get into pagination and those kind of items. And it's always important to invest on the AI that you can always retrain, right? You look at a few examples. We did this religiously for weeks. Like every time we release an agent, we watch what all questions are being asked, what is the type of answers that happen, and then give it more training, right? And that gives us a chance to take a step back and retrain this.
Got it. Let's see. What does the next 5 years? And this is from Coimbatore PR, so it's good.
Uh, Next 5 years, I don't, I'm not sure. Waiting for what AI has to offer. We'll always be on top of what's happening in other places. But in general, I'll give a vision of the function, right? It's to be like the rifle, right? Like RevOps will be like a rifle in the hands of a Navy SEAL, right? Like if revenue driver is a Navy SEAL, like RevOps has to be the rifle that they are always relying on. So you will always be like the most trusted partner in any revenue driving function, right? That's one. Second is we'll always focus alignment. We will cut the noise, bring focus to the needle moving stuff only, right? It's very easy to get driven into like, hey, there's more to do, there is metrics, there's this, there's that. We'll always bring people back on the revenue table saying, what is the revenue funnel? What is the North Star? Third is we are building a function where we enable people that they it serves to themselves, right? Like we are not like I think Shri brought up a really good point. If we're not at a place where someone gives like a point work to us and we do that work, right? Like we are building a function that enables by itself. So we'll never be like a huge team. That would never be the brag of, hey, we are like a 50 member ops team. We are here to do like efficient work. We are here to bring in insights to enable the org, create better process and all of that. But all of this has to be like self-managing activities that we will invest on.
Yeah. One kind of extension to that question. Let's say right now you join a Series A company at that stage of revenue, which Rocketlane was 3.5, 4 years back, and now you have AI. How would you instrument? Would it be the same Snowflake, BI engineer, Tableau, etc., or how else it would be?
Definitely not. I think this is one thing that we keep talking about over coffee. Of is this the same way we would build team? I don't think so. The first thing is we'll always go on AI native tooling, right? All the teams that are building tooling are again rethinking on how we are building AI first tooling, right? So I don't think there would be enough on Snowflake and Tableau to even look through this, right? Like Claude is doing stuff in minutes. We need to figure out if the hallucination and pagination needs to stop and not. And one, the entire tech part itself has gone away, right? Like you do not
Yeah.
need technical people in every place where that's like one item that used to stop you from being no. You have all of that in your hands. So you'll always go on that line. So I'll still stick to uh, the overall premise that I set, the three-layer RevOps foundation. So I'll get the systems right in place. I'll get the data right in place. Second would definitely be the processes and the metrics and alignment. And third would be the programs that I run on top. So I don't think the framework would change, but the bets, yeah, definitely there would be different bets that I would take.
That's interesting. Now we have another question from Saurabh as well. Actually, you made an interesting point. Like, why would I buy a AI CRM or a new age CRM? I'll work on top of HubSpot and then run agents and other parts, which is something which was also a repetitive theme from few of the other founders. Also, I just had a conversation in Chennai with another CEO and founder. He was like, I'm not able to trust on any of the AI native CRMs. I'm rather happy with HubSpot plus Claude and plus agents and other parts. And that's actually does the work better for me. So from this question, like shouldn't tools like AI native CRM solve for alignment out of the box as we look into the future? What do you think about that?
For future, yes. Like if I have to make a choice today, definitely a AI native CRM will be in the mix that I'm looking at HubSpot, Salesforce, and all the native CRMs, right? Uh, the question again keeps coming back to, is that a problem that I need to solve today? Or is there like a bigger problem that I'm chasing? My bigger problem or my North Star is going to be revenue. Um, is my CRM stopping me from doing that? It could have a year ago, but you have seen the shift on headless 365 and all of that, right? Nobody wants to log into CRM. So today, CRM is my system of record until it becomes like, hey, the architecture itself is questionable. I'm not able to derive insights beyond what, which is not a problem at all. I treat that as my backend. All of us live out of, let's say, Gong for forecasting and deal reviews. Probably we use a lot of Claude and our agents to tell us what are the top deals to look at, what are the top next steps that I need to take. So I'm able to do all of this without having to log into multiple systems. So the whole point is I'm already not worrying about should you log into anything at all. So I don't know at this point if an AI native CRM is something that I need to like reinvest on, right? Probably your question, Shri, was if you were doing it today, yeah, I would have this in the list. If I'm doing
Yeah.
it for Rocketlane or already what we've done, maybe not.
I think it's the verdict is still open because a lot of A native CRM or other parts also traditionally work alongside existing CRM tools. And what they were able to do is like now we are able to run in terms of updating fields or getting data back into your, let's say, agents of communication, like whether it's on your website or whether it's on your Slack or whether it's in any other tooling, it's become a lot more easier or different surfaces. Headless and surfaces has come out to be a lot easier. So I'm of the view that the traditional CRMs are more there to stay because they are a system of record. So you need a system of record, and then you have a surface where you can access those records wherever you want, and you can choose your surfaces as you please. But it's will also be interesting to see how. And the Salesforce earnings call was also quite pretty evident. It's like so many more
Yeah.
tools have started this thing, and Slack AI has also come in. So it's interesting times. I mean, this is one phase. I mean, we have lived through tech changes, but in the last 1.5 years, we have changed our opinion every 3 months.
I would
And
agree. Yeah.
that's it.
Probably
So
I'll
that's
have,
great.
have a different answer if you ask me a quarter down. I don't know.
Yeah. That's great. And anyways, firstly, I think that also makes sense. Like maybe another 6 months, we have to do another kind of a webinar with you when Rocketlane is Series D, then maybe, or Unicorn then. So then it will be even more interesting for us to have that next conversation and also see what else has changed in the world. So far, it's been good. There have been quite a few good questions and great participation as well. Thanks a lot, Dheeraj, for making time. It's been more than an hour, almost 1 hour, 5 minutes, and also putting together a great deck despite your quarter ending and so many other work which you have. Thanks a lot for everyone to participate. This whole link and the whole webinar is available on YouTube, so people can go and check it out at any point in time. We'll also be running it quite a few times. And if there is any question, please do feel free to reach out to Dheeraj directly on LinkedIn and or meet him in Chennai in Rocketlane. And also, uh, one thing which I would also recommend is like what Dheeraj articulated very well is the executive buy-in. So if you are on RevOps or if you are on any engineering or supportive roles, you can also see like how supportive is the Rocketlane executive management team is also in terms of encouraging tooling, buying in terms of like being advanced in terms of what they are building on. So that will be a great place for you to actually explore roles as well. So just that you have to be in Chennai, which is great also.
Amazing.
That's good. Thanks a lot, Dheeraj. I'll just
Yeah.
end this.